What happens when your passion can no longer pay the bills? And what if the impact you thought you were making isn't what the world actually needs? Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Career Chats Startup Edition. I'm your host, Adel Hamid. Whether you're a startup leader, an aspiring founder, or someone looking to break into the startup world, you are exactly where you need to be. Our guest today, Alfredo Mathew III, found himself at this very crossroads. A former public school teacher, he left a career he loved to answer those tough questions heads on. His journey started by confronting a reality that a stark McKinsey report now confirms through the title of this article. The next generation is looking at their careers with deep anxiety, fearing that financial stability is out of their reach and a fulfilling career is just a dream. But Alfredo didn't just identify the problem. He began to build a solution. He's now pioneering business models that are gaining serious momentum, championed everywhere from Harvard Business Review articles such as this article titled "The Big Benefits of Employee Ownership," which discusses a research study assessing the outcome of giving employees a 30% stake within a company, to another article titled "Employee Ownership, a Strategic Advantage," for the same reason or through the same approach. Today's episode is a masterclass in turning personal frustration into system-wide innovation. We'll explore how to build a business with a soul and why the most impactful strategy is creating shared prosperity. If you're ready, grab your coffee and let's get into it. Hi, Alfredo. Thank you for making the time to join us today in the Coffee and Career Chats show, Startup Edition. As mentioned earlier, I'm very excited to learn more about what got you to shift your career from being a teacher to an entrepreneur, and how does working with the community become a great business strategy. Please tell us more about yourself. I've seen your TED Talk presentation and I've seen some of your videos as well and interviews. I'm excited. Please go ahead.
Adel, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to learn about you as well and learn about your community. Uh, I'm not that special. I'm someone who I love to learn. I love to grow. I'm not afraid of change. I've had to start from scratch numerous times in my life, and that's what I love about entrepreneurship is it really teaches you that you're not going to make the hard changes. You're not going to have the growth, one, without challenge and without some pain and some sacrifice, but also unless your back is up against the wall. Because when your back is up against the wall, when whatever you tried hasn't worked, that's when the breakthroughs happen. And I am comfortable in my life making changes. And I think we all need to embrace change. Change can be scary, but change is growth.
Thank you. Thank you. And you mentioned that you shifted your career. You were originally, when you started, you were a teacher and you shifted between schools,
Yes.
between levels. Can you tell us more about that and what was the motivation behind moving away from being a teacher?
Well, my parents were teachers and I became a teacher. And I don't think that I'll ever leave teaching because teaching
Mm,
is just part of my identity. It's
mm,
how I view the world. If I learn something today, I want to teach it
mm,
tomorrow. So
mm,
whatever I'm learning, I want to share with other people. So that just
mm,
comes naturally to me. Um, but I will say I was a in public school teacher for 14 years in New York
mm,
City and California, multiple cities. And I also did a lot of youth development. I worked with a lot of young people and I hit my ceiling. I hit my wall.
mm,
Um,
mm,
I was not making any more money and I
mm,
had my children
mm,
and I needed to make more money. And I asked my
Mm-hmm.
principal, I was a great teacher. I had all these test scores. I had won awards. I had done all these things, but I could not make more money. That was one challenge. And I could
Mm-hmm.
not afford to live in the Bay Area on that
Mm-hmm.
salary.
Mm-hmm.
Another challenge is that the young people that I was working with from New York City, from Oakland, from everyone wanted to make money. And I
Mm-hmm.
was teaching them history. And I love history. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important that we understand the world, that we know how to debate, that we know how to have dialogue. But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, the young people that I was preparing, yes, they wanted to be good citizens and they wanted to understand the world, but they needed to make money. And I did not know how to teach them how to make money because our schools are not focused on making a living, or it's there's an education to workforce pipeline, or there's an education to college pipeline, but the world of work and the world of education are not very well connected.
Mm-hmm.
Business is moving so fast over here and education can't keep up. And I saw that divide and I said, oh my goodness, if I just stay in education, I'm basically sending young people out into the world and they're going to take on debt going to college that they don't know why they're going to college, or they're going to study things and think that they have a job and then the job changes and they're going to be left behind. And so I said, I do not want to do something that is not going to have the impact that I thought that it was going to have. When I recognized that I was not having the impact, I taught over 1,000 young people, right? I love teaching. I love young people. I love history. But if what I thought I was doing, if I'm not having the impact, and I know that I can't continue doing it for a pension, I can't continue doing it because it's what I know how to do. I have to get out of my own comfort zone. I need to find where can I have more of an impact. And I'll say one more thing about it. From the age to 20 to 40, I made only lateral moves, meaning that I moved from New York City to Pasadena. Teacher, lateral move. Move from Pasadena to Oakland. Teacher, lateral move. Every city I moved in, I had to start from scratch, including like I had 7 years of I had a pension in New York City, and then I moved to California. I had to start all over again to get that pension. I didn't understand the value of when you exit one career, when you exit one business, that's an entrance to something else. And every time you make a transition, you need to be leveling up. When you do lateral moves, it's very hard because you are starting from scratch all over again. I learned I can start from scratch. Second half of my life, I don't want to be starting from scratch.
The learning curve as well that comes with it, it also correlates with the dip and income, in my view. I think if you, unless you're an entrepreneur, even when you start a business as well, there is the initial dip, the learning curve that you have to go through that requires you to manage the risk as well. But coming back to the community, one of the things I've written in my book as well, and I keep teaching, is most entrepreneurs, most startup leaders, they focus on the immediate deliverables of the business. But when
Mm.
it comes to working with the university, working with the community, looking at how either we benefit the community or the community could benefit, a mutually beneficial relationship, no one thinks that way. And I think it makes sense because if you're in a startup mode, you need to prioritize what you deliver on. But what I've seen is that many of, like, the simplest thing is internships. What's the most effective way to manage internships? Because you're benefiting these youngsters who are coming into the workforce. From your experience, what worked? What advice do you have for all of us?
So there's how to do a purpose-driven business, and then how to invest in young people in the next generation, right? So it's not that they're two parts of the same, two sides of the same coin. I believe that if you are pursuing business, you need to create value, and you can measure value creation easily in profit, right? In the bottom line, is your business profitable? That is essential. You want to go into business, you need to meet an unmet need, you need to solve a problem, you need to compete in the marketplace, and you need to generate profit, revenue, growth, wealth. That everyone is agreement, right? That's universal. But I also believe that if you are in business, you need to create value There's value that we create that is not on the balance sheet. It is not in the profit and loss statement. There's value that you create in society. And I would argue that some businesses are not creating value. They're actually taking away value. They're taking away public value. They're ruining our public discourse, or they're taking data that is being extracted from right lots of people and no one's being paid for that data. Those things, if you actually balance it out, are you really creating value? So I encourage all of us as entrepreneurs and business owners to be thinking about double or triple bottom lines, right? You got to be profit and no purpose. But what is your purpose beyond making money? Yes, we all need to make money. Everyone needs to make a living. But what is the value that you're offering the world? Are you making it easier for a family to raise a healthy family? Are you helping us live longer? What is the value that you're creating? So that is like you need a public purpose, because I do believe that all businesses benefit from public money, from public dollars, from public infrastructure. So what is that public purpose? What is that public benefit? And ultimately, like, what is our impact on the planet? So it's like profit, people, planet, however you want to define it, right? It's not a political thing, left, right, or I don't know what the parties are in Dubai, but it's like, what the political situation is. But you have to find a way to measure your impact and measure the value that you're creating first in profitability, but then what are the other measurements that you're going to have? And when it comes to building businesses that the community needs, I believe like right now is the time to really think about local economies. How do we make Dubai a more vibrant economy? How do we create more on ramps to opportunity for young people in Dubai? If societies do not create on ramps for young people, that's scary. That's a problem. If young people don't see a future in your country, or if the old people have too much power and the old people, right, the big companies have all of the wealth and all of the contracts, and there's no way for new startups to come in, that is not a good system, because you're going to create resentment. You're going to create, like, you're not going to allow the new ideas, the new talent, the new things to come forward. That last thing about young people, we should always be integrating young people into everything we do, because how long are you going to be here? How long am I going to be here? Right? Throughout my career, I've always tried to identify young people that are really smart, that I really, I see their potential, and I try and make introductions. I try and give them opportunities. I stay in touch with young people that I really admire, because I know that these are people that I want to work with one day, or these are people that, like I want to invest in, or these are people that I want to work for. I do think that it's important to create on ramps, and internships need to be paid. Young people need to not just volunteer and do work, but they need to be compensated for their work. And I think it's really important.
You're absolutely right. Investing in young people, because I'm also thinking of it with a selfish point of view, right?
Yeah.
If we want to make sure that we remain connected to the market, no matter how old we get or how evolved we get, our users are people, are human beings, whether they're in groups or individuals. It could be retail, it could be software, whatever it is. At the end of even our employees, the next generation of people that are working for us are also internal stakeholders. How do you remain connected with them? Thank you for this insight. I'm thinking from the startup leader's point of view, from the founder's point of view. I'm doing something today. I was one of those people as well who had a stable job. I was working for the Economic Development Board in Bahrain at that time. And most of my colleagues are still there.
Yes.
I had to
Yes.
leave and pursue the entrepreneurial path. And there are a few of us that have made the same choice. I'm curious to know, in your part of the world, in the US, and it seems to me that you are a teacher at heart as well.
Yes.
What got you to make that, other than making money? What else got you to want to succeed and set up the ventures arm, the SPCC. Maybe also it helps us out to understand what the venture arm is and what SPCC is as well.
Yes. So I think one of the best parts of being a founder and being an entrepreneur, and maybe this is why you made your shift, if you're able to see around corners and you see what's coming, you can't stay in the position that you're in when you know, right, that there's a wave coming. And if you reposition yourself, you can catch that wave. In 2012, 2013, 2014, right, there had been the big recession, right, the big financial crisis around the world, 2008, 2009. We all experienced that, I believe, in some way. That crisis showed me the importance of the capital markets. It showed me the importance of flexibility. And I knew that I needed to make a shift. I didn't know how to make a shift. I was stuck. But I saw around the corner that there was a real focus in California on career pathways, what you were interested in, right? With internships. And California was putting a lot of money to connect the education system to the workforce system. Because in California, one of their challenges is Silicon Valley, which is the right economic engine of the world in many ways, it is disconnected from the local economy because Silicon Valley has a global talent pipeline, global marketplace. These are giant companies, and they don't really need the local schools in California to get their talent. And so California recognized that there's a disconnect and they put a lot of money into thinking this out. I wanted to be a part of that solution. So in 2014, I left teaching and I got a role as a director at the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And my role was to figure out a bridge between local high schools in Silicon Valley. So for 5 years, I built relationships with Salesforce and PayPal and Cisco and EY and SAP, all of these entrepreneurial ecosystem builders and accelerators. And I got all exposed to Silicon Valley. So I'm a New Yorker. I'm from New York. I love teaching. I love young people. I'm in the Bay Area. All of a sudden, I get exposed to Silicon Valley thinking, which is exponential thinking. And I loved it. I love the exponential thinking. I love the idea that, like you need to disrupt the status quo. Like think big. Like if you're not thinking big enough, no one's going to pay attention to you. So I see all these connections. And then I realized Silicon Valley is not going to hire young people from East Oakland or East San Jose or Hayward or Richmond because they have these global talent pools. And Silicon Valley is really just a venture capital ecosystem. And the number of companies that actually get venture capital is like 1% of 1%. 99.9% of businesses are going to grow their business through debt investment, through revenue, through seed investment from friends and family, angel investors, but you're not going to get the venture capital. And so I said, I want to focus on the business owners that are more community driven, everyday, real world business owners, not the 1% of 1%, but the 99.9%. And so I did the nonprofit work. I love the nonprofit work, but I said, I can't teach something that I'm not doing myself. I was teaching all these young people, thousands. I worked with a couple thousand young people a year, getting them excited about entrepreneurship and business ownership, but I hadn't created a business myself. I hadn't exited a business myself. So for the last 6 years, I've been creating businesses. I've been building businesses and I've loved it. And you do have to start a business. It's going to be hard. And you've got to get through the learning curves of that first year, of that second year. And you've got to continue to pivot. But I created Working World LLC, my own private consultancy. Out of that work, in the beginning of the pandemic, I co-founded ESO Ventures, which is a business that makes entrepreneurship accessible and worthwhile in every community. We turned a $5,000 project that I got into Working World, a $25,000 contract, into $22 million in 21 and 22. We got an $18 million investment from the state of California. I closed contracts with community colleges and municipalities and lots of different folks to incubate businesses, Black and brown businesses in California, and launch a debt investment fund. We launched a $12 million debt investment fund to provide working capital to the businesses that we incubated. So low interest debt into these businesses so that they could get up and running and formalize and grow. And now, again, I saw in 2023 that the market was shifting, capital was getting more expensive, DEI in the United States, there's a backlash. We've had a lot of political changes, and it has not gotten any easier for small businesses to make it in the United States. And for me, because of my background and because of the way I view the world, I believe small businesses are the key to the American dream. I believe that small businesses are the fastest way to grow assets, to grow wealth. And if we do not have access to small business growth, we don't have a competitive marketplace. We don't have access to asset growth. And so what I'm working on now is how can small businesses come together as a group and compete against large conglomerates. So I call them community corporations, but how do we create shared prosperity where more business owners can come together because a small mom and pop business just cannot compete against a much larger enterprise. But if small businesses can come together into a corporate structure where there is governance and there is a backbone entity and there are efficiencies, we can compete for contracts and capital. As you can see, I don't stay doing one thing. I start in one place, I learn, I go to the next thing, I learn, I go to the next thing. Because what I love about business ownership is I love the founding part. I love taking a concept, getting it off the ground, getting it to a place where it's self-sustaining. ESO Ventures is self-sustaining, has an awesome CEO, Martha Hernandez. She's driving that business forward. I have the space to think and to dream and to learn. And now I'm going to create a new vertical. I'm going to learn a lot and I'm not going to stop.
It's very interesting. Also, you mentioned collaborating with the government, because my assumption has been that the emerging markets are the markets that are facing this connection between the startup ecosystem and the capital market as well, and also the talent pool. So it seems to me that within Silicon Valley, within California itself as well, there is that disconnection between the supply of talent and the demand for that talent, because I think they're attracting the best from around the world. So
Yes.
it's a hub. It's excellent. When you're working with these startups, or let's say SMBs, and you're bringing them all together to think as one unit, what kind of challenges that you face usually when you bring them together? You change the way they think, and you want them to think like a regional network, like a global network. Usually, these are either nonprofit through memberships, or like you mentioned, the corporate mindset, which is interesting. I'm more curious about that. How
Yeah.
does it work?
Well, one, there's an emerging domestic market in the United States, and that's where we're focused because that is an underserved market within the United States. There's obviously an emerging global market, and I would love to maybe have some further conversation to learn about what that looks like in Dubai or other places, because I do think that there's similar challenges, right? Getting access to
Mm,
capital, access to contracts, and economies of
mm,
scale.
yeah.
SMBs, small business owners, don't have the mindset of working as a group. Everyone is the boss of their little business. I own 100% of my business. I call the shots. And there's a leadership thinker. I know you have leadership on your shirt. You're familiar with Jonathan Maxwell? He's a leadership guru guy. He says that leadership is the lid. In other words, that you can only grow your business as big as your leadership level is. And the reason why most businesses are small is because the business owner has reached their capacity. I've hit the wall myself, right? Like I thought I was going to go out and we're going to turn this thing into $100 million. I hit my lid. I did not know how to work as a team with my business partners. We couldn't grow beyond that stage. And I think that a lot of business owners face that. Their leadership level is here. If you want to scale up and grow, the market demands that you go here. So what this requires is business owners realizing that I can go by myself and I can create a job for myself. I can create a job for some of my employees, but I can't level up to that next level where I'm really creating an asset that is valuable, because I know that a business has value once it can operate without the founder, without the labor of the business owner. That's when you have an asset. When the business has systems and it can operate and it's profitable and the founder can leave, but you can sell that asset and someone wants to buy it because it's generating profits. That is a real business, and that's an asset. In the United States, there are 33 million businesses, 27 million are sole proprietors. They're businesses of one person who really, if they get sick and they stop working, the business stops working. They don't have an asset. They have self-employment. And I think many people around the world are self-employed. They're not business owners. And I want to support self-employed people to become business owners. I don't think that all self-employed people are just going to create their own firms and dominate a vertical or an industry. I'm looking at fragmented industry verticals, right? There's so many of them, whether it's electricians, residential electricians, chiropractors, dry cleaners, like any kind of a business that is fragmented. And how do you come together, form a group? There needs to be a backbone entity that is providing shared services. And how do you grow as a group? There needs to be acquisitions. You need to acquire the businesses. Once you vet the businesses, once the businesses are a good cultural fit, work hard and show that they have profitability, that they have domain expertise, there needs to be an acquisition. There needs to be an exit for that business owner, but it's a vested exit. You get 20% up front and you get the rest of your pay over time, 3 to 4 years, because you still have to work in the business and show value. This model is a private equity model. But as you can see from the way that I'm talking, I am not your typical private equity person, because what I see, private equity, private capital sees the inefficiencies in small businesses. And for the last 20 or 30 years, they have been acquiring and buying up all of the cash-based profitable businesses. They put them together, they fire half the employees, they raise the prices and lower the services, and in 3 years they exit and they get a 4x, 7x return for their investors. That is part of the problem, that global capital, that private capital sees the market inefficiencies, can acquire and exit, but local communities are not any better off, and only the business owner gets a little bit of a benefit. The model that I'm working on, and I can't say that I've done it all because I'm in the process. I'm talking with domain experts, entrepreneurs in residential electrification. I'm talking with electricians. I'm talking with some dry clean owners. I'm talking with some chiropractors. I'm interested in other verticals too, but we're going to find one great small business owner who has credibility, who can help organize other small business owners. I'm starting a fund, Shared Prosperity Incorporated, to invest into and acquire businesses in these verticals. And once they get to a certain size, I want to transition the group to employee stock ownership plans, an ESOP transition, which creates a tax-free exit for the fund. And I want to offer the business owners access to that fund, shares in that fund. So they can take the cash or they can acquire shares in the holding company so that they get to participate in the upside of the aggregation and the exit. all of this. You know that my background, I'm a history teacher, I'm an educator, but I love corporate structure. I'm studying finance and I'm seeing this is how business works. This is how you make money. And if I learn something, I want to teach it. So that's what I'm doing.
Excellent. You just triggered a few questions within one comment. Scalability is always a challenge for startups, for SMBs, and most businesses, like you said, they act as they're building a practice that's not scalable. If they disappear, the business stops. If they get
Yes.
sick, the business stops. So it's an amazing way of looking at how you merge the private equity way of thinking or the operating model with something that chambers of commerce would do to facilitate the local businesses, the small businesses to grow and get more contracts and expand. So I like, and I'm really curious, and I'll keep following what you're doing because you're right as well with the private equity firms. They look at the financial upside most of the time. It's not about the sustainability, it's not about the community, it's about how it looks, how much money it's making right now. So this is why also I've seen many founders, they'd rather, I don't know whether it's right or no, they'd rather see their companies burn than exit too early. I don't know why.
Mm.
Sometimes puzzles me. But if there was a mechanism like this, then probably it would be a different case.
Adel, what I want to say to founders is
Mm.
you are not your company. I think founders are so attached, emotionally attached to their companies, oops, because they sacrifice so much. When you start a business, you don't get to sleep. You take out debt on a credit card or whatever, right? You're taking a big risk. You're fighting with your wife or your husband so that you can do this thing and no one else understands. Why did you leave this good job, this pension, and now you're going to go take this risk? You're crazy. What are you doing? So you make all of these sacrifices. And then when you get some success, so you go, but then when you hit that ceiling, your pride doesn't let you say, oh my goodness, I hit the ceiling. Like I'm competing against big firms and it's really difficult and I'm not going to make it. You are not your business. Your business is a baby. You have to change the diapers the first number of years. The goal is not to be changing diapers forever. The goal is that your baby grows up and becomes independent and has a life without you. And that's what I want business owners to understand is you're going to have many children. Don't get too focused on one. Have a child and then set it free. If it has a life of its own, great. If it doesn't make it, you're going to have more children. You have another shot, but don't go down with the ship. Don't ruin your finances. Don't get divorced. Don't ruin your relationships and then really have to start from scratch. So I think founders get too emotionally focused on their one company. Most Half the people in the world are going to create a business in their life. One third of all the people who create one business are going to create many businesses. We're serial entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is the number one career path in the world. You need to go into it knowing that you're going to fail and that you're going to have to start over again. But don't start over laterally, start over leveling up. Since I left teaching and I started this about 12 years ago, I've been leveling up every time I make a shift. That difference makes a world of difference.
Leveling up, this is a keyword I would take from our discussion today. Leveling up with every change. Because I can relate to that as well. Sometimes, also, if you don't level up, there's no excitement, right?
Yeah.
What's the excitement of starting something new if you don't level up? And also from a startup leader's point of view, and that's also one thing I've been promoting recently, is why, if you don't want to start a company and you don't feel like starting a company, why should you? Even if you want to start a company, don't start it. Join someone who has started a company so they deal with the fundraising and all the headache, and you get the equity upside plus the experience plus the accelerated growth. There are also other benefits to not being an entrepreneur and being, I would call it a semi-entrepreneurial role, because you're still reporting to the CEO. It's still a startup. So that's also an option. Doesn't have to be, in my view, uh, either become a founder or be an employee. There's a third one where it's a hybrid role. And I don't know if this makes
A
sense. Yeah.
founding employee,
A founding
a founding,
employee.
em-
Yes. Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there is a question that we usually ask all of our guests is 50 years from now, what do you want people to remember you by, Alfredo? What do you want them to say about you?
50 years from now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be remembered. And
That's the hard
and
truth.
no, no, and that's how I live my life. I don't want to be remembered because what would they remember about me? They would know just the surface of me. The people who know me love me. And those people, I will live on through them forever, right? Um, I already had an experience 3 years ago where I worked myself into the hospital from all of this work, from putting the pressure on myself. I was in the neuro ICU in the Bronx in Manhattan. I let go of this life. I was okay to let go of this life. I submitted to God. If it's my time, take me. If it's not my time, bring me back. God brought me back. It is not about me. And unfortunately, for everyone who's trying to make it about themselves, it's not about you. You are not going to be remembered 500 years from now. But if you live a good life, you're okay to let go. I already know that I am okay. I know how loved I am. I have relationships and I have impact. But I do believe that I'm here for a purpose and I still have work to do. And I'm going to move the work from here to here. I need other people to take my work because everything I'm doing, I'm building on the shoulders of people that came before me. I think that I have all these great ideas. Other people already had these ideas, but they were only able to take the idea this far. I'm taking it this far. My work is part of a tradition. I am just building on that tradition and other people. I'm on podcast now because I want to talk and I want to share what I'm learning. I'm writing. I did that TEDx, right? Manifesting an economic engine for shared prosperity because I want people to understand the way I see the world and the way what I'm learning. I'm going to leave all of this as my legacy, but people aren't going to necessarily know who I am. But people are going to be influenced by me whether they know me or not because I'm not alone. I'm part of a lot of people who want to see entrepreneurship democratized, capitalism democratized. I want to see broad ownership. The legacy is that ownership is not just for that top 1%, but we all need to embrace capitalism. And because it's a tool, you leverage capital, you leverage assets to grow because that gives you financial independence, and financial independence allows you to participate politically. You can't have democracy without economic freedom. And no, yeah, the whole world is not democratic. And I happen to think democracy is a beautiful thing. And I happen to think that financial freedom is a beautiful thing. That's my legacy. That's what I want all of us to have. And then, of course, faith in something beyond yourself because you're really not that important.
Amazing. That's an enlightening answer to think about our journey in this world this way, because it's more leaving the spirituality out of it. It's very logical what you're saying, and it makes more sense, and it requires someone to achieve a level of maturity to accept the fact that we're just a little grain of sand, in a dust storm. So I really appreciate your humbleness and for joining us as well and sharing all of your knowledge. And definitely we'll be talking after this. There are a few items as well I want to see if we could work together on. And I'm also curious about to see how that private equity model, the hybrid model that you're following, how will it work? How can we maybe expand it into this part of the world as well, or into other emerging markets around the world? And yeah, thank you so much, Alfredo. Thank you.
Adel, thank you for having me, and we will talk after this, and we'll find a way to collaborate and see where things go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, Matthew, for the interview, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. A teacher at heart, an entrepreneur by necessity, and a visionary by choice. My conversation with Alfredo Mathew III leaves us with three powerful takeaways. The first is the concept of leveling up. With every career move, ask yourself, are you simply moving sideways, or are you building on your past experiences to reach a new level of impact and opportunity? The second takeaway, his advice to all founders and leaders, quoting him, "You are not your company." Closing the quote, the ultimate goal is to build an asset, something that creates value independent of you, so you can let it go and move on to the next challenge. That's also another way of making things sustainable with business continuity that goes beyond you, the creator. It could be a product, could be a book, it could be a course, anything. And the third takeaway is the challenge to build with a triple bottom line. A reminder that most resilient and impactful businesses create value not just for the shareholders, but for their people, for their communities, their employees. That means it's a business that will benefit everyone. It creates good within the community, not just about money or for financial gains. To learn more about Alfredo's work, I'll be linking his inspiring TEDx talk in the show notes below, along with the articles from McKinsey, Harvard Business Review, and Forbes that we discussed at the beginning of this episode. If this conversation inspired you, please subscribe, share it with someone who could find it useful and who want to build their own legacy. And until next time, keep leading, keep leveling up, and build something that matters. Thank you, everyone.